Hey everybody, Happy New Year. Dan Hornacek back with Leading on the Frontlines podcast. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday season. Thanks for bearing with me in regards to taking last week off. I had a great time being able to spend some time with my family and my kids. It was a chaotic holiday. My kids are just getting to the age where they understand what Christmas is and just the excitement of New Year's and things like that. So it was fun, but there was a lot going on. So it was a really good time, and I hope you guys were able to spend some good time with your family and friends and loved ones during the last week. So starting off this week this year, I should say. One thing a lot of people do is have New Year's resolutions. I used to always kind of give myself some goals. I think it's a great idea to give yourself some goals. This year has been kind of strange in the sense that I've started some stuff kind of near the end of the year that's going to carry over as kind of a progression of a potential resolution moving into 2024. So, and with that, I think that we can fall into a trap of giving ourselves massive goals because you're like, oh, you have a whole year to do them. But I think we can give each other or give ourselves massive goals that would be pretty difficult to obtain, or just are mildly unrealistic. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind as we move into the new year. Q1 started for a lot of businesses, so everybody kind of ramps up because you want to have a good Q1, in business. So everyone kind of tightens down, and it's not so much motivation rather than we need to get this done because it's first quarter of the year, et cetera, et cetera. And what a lot of people focus on is things that they don't want. So they say things such as, we don't want to be in the negative quarter, or, Q1. We don't want any turnover. We don't want this. We don't want that. And I was reading a book. It's called Worth Defending: How Gracie Jitsu Saved My Life. It's by Richard Bresler and Scott Burr. It's a really, really good book. Even if martial arts isn't your thing, honestly, the book is really fantastic. I listened to it, but I recommend even getting a hard copy. I plan on getting one myself because it was that good, and I want to reread it. But one of the things they talked about in there is this actual concept. Is the Richard went to a therapist in the book, and his therapist brought up this concept of focusing on the things you do want versus the things that you don't. And what this does is it allows for more positive thoughts rather than the negative, right? It allows you to sit there and say, I want these things, versus sitting there and saying, I don't want these things. Because when you talk about the things that you do want, it puts you on a path of self-improvement, or just a path of getting towards the things that you want, rather than if you focus on the things that you don't want. It's going to put you, even from a subconscious perspective, put you in a place of longing and despair. And that's not good, right? Especially if we want to continue to motivate a team, or build a culture, or whatever you're trying to do as a leader at this point in the year. So this, and if you think about the things that I've talked about in the past, when we're talking about growing your people or serving your people and things like that, growing culture, building culture from the ground up, whatever it might be, especially from, if you're a newer manager who, got through this past holiday season, and now, your focus is on, kind of diving into more of the leadership stuff. This is where looking at an employee or a team and seeing things that, and don't get me wrong, it's okay to look at the things that are wrong. You should, right? But I think it's about phrasing. I think that how you phrase things, how you go about looking at things, plays an important role in your overall ideals or concepts of how you're going to change these things. And if you constantly say, I don't want I don't want this employee to keep showing up late, or I hate how this employee shows up late all the time. If you start to reframe the thoughts in your mind into, I want this employee to get here on time, it it changes the way you're processing it, because in my opinion, you're not looking at it from the perspective of just a complaint that this employee's late all the time. You're looking at it almost from a perspective of, what can I do to get this employee to come here on time because I want them here. I think it kind of reframes that perspective. Same with, I don't want my team, talking all the time and being unproductive. Well, no, what you want is, you want your team to be more productive. And so, like, the follow up question that is, how can I help that, or how can I get them to be more productive, versus kind of the immediate wall of, I don't want them talking all the time. Okay. So, it's kind of just changes it from a positive to a negative. And I think that is very important, especially going into the new year. We've got, when I was at FedEx, obviously the holidays were an extremely, extremely busy time. And peak season, as it was called. And quite literally, after, if not on the day after Christmas Eve, it quite literally just died off, like, exponentially, to the point where we could run everything half staffed. The month of January was pretty bleak, and we had a nickname for it. We called it the post peak blues, because you've just ran everybody into the ground for, from Black Friday on until Christmas. Everyone's tired. Everyone's a little fried, from the lower level, entry level employees and package handlers to, the top brass. I mean, everybody's pretty fried. And, the last thing I think that is needed going into a brand new year, after, everybody has just put forth, hopefully, their best effort, is to be sat there and told all the things that their manager doesn't want to see happen anymore. I think it's a bit different when you walk into a meeting or a room and say, I want these things and I feel that we can achieve them, and kind of have your chest puffed out a little bit, because you're confident in the fact that your team can accomplish these things. And if you utilize the motivation and kind of like the positive run from, how you get through the holiday season, and utilize that to kind of to fuel the momentum, if you will, what an awesome thing to hear, right? Everyone's finally back. We kind of have to get back to the normal grind. Nobody wants to be there. There's all those jokes out there about the period between, Christmas and New Year's, and you just eat too much cheese and don't know what day of the week it is, right? I saw that meme quite a few times. And so the last thing you want to hear coming back to work, to really a place you don't necessarily want to be, because you just spent all this great time with family and friends, to sit there and hear what you don't want is pretty, it's not going to achieve any motivation. It might put a big bad taste in your employees' mouths. And I think walking into a meeting, or just, into the new year, as casual conversations, and just talking about the things or you want your team to achieve, I think it's going to be a huge motivational factor. And use this time too, right, to talk about all the great things that happened, the accomplishments that happened, how good your employees performed. I think that right now probably isn't the best time to do, having critical conversations with employees, unless they're absolutely necessary. I think that, the holiday season, again, that I mentioned in my last couple podcasts, everyone's kind of fried, everyone's working hard, mistakes are going to be made. We're all human. If it's a good learning opportunity, or an opportunity to help develop an employee, definitely jump on it. But I think to round out the idea of focusing on things that are wanted, you can also use that as an additional motivating factor with your team coming into the new year. So I'm really excited. I think that, one of the things for my own personal growth that I'm going to be focusing on this year is this concept. That's why one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up. Focusing on the things I do want. And one of the things I do want to do is to really allow people to be human. I think, I'm human myself, right? So I think I've kind of fallen into a trap of, having pretty high expectations for people when the expectations are set by me and they don't even know them. And so that's going to be a big focus for the beginning of this year for me, is to allow people to be human, allow people to feel the way they're feeling, especially when you have toddlers, being upset because you gave them the wrong color sippy cup. You can get pretty frustrated, and so I think it's for me. I think it's going to work out twofold, because it will allow people to feel safe in their emotions around me, and I think that also I will be ultimately happier, because it'll allow me to not take what they're giving me from that negative perspective. If I'm understanding and empathetic to them feeling certain ways, I won't take on their emotion as well. So that's my goal. So that's my New Year resolution this year. I think that can translate to many things, and I'm excited to kind of see it. This is something I started kind of bouncing around in my head a couple weeks ago, and I've already noticed some pretty big changes in my personal well-being. So if you guys want to know more about that, feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram or on X, formerly Twitter, or shoot a comment on my YouTube as well. So again, X and Twitter leading on the front lines, Instagram and X leading on the front line, YouTube leading the front. And again, Teachable. I am on Teachable if you like to learn about learn a little bit more about leadership, and kind of develop your leadership abilities a little bit more. If you need help with interview skills, or writing a resume or whatever, I know AI's out there. Feel free to use that too. Or if you're old school like me and you like to type them up and put them together, I'm happy to help as well. So check me out on Teachable. All these links are going to be not only in the podcast, but they're going to be in the YouTube comments as well. So check out those if you'd like the links. And then I'm also going to have a link to that book. Again, it was really, really good book. Again, worth defending. How Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Saved My Life by Richard Bresler and Scott Burr. So that's all I have for this week, guys. Really excited to start the new year and kind of tackle all the things that I want to tackle. I'm feeling pretty ambitious this year starting out. I had a good week off of work too, so that was really nice, and I think it kind of got me back into a good mindset for tackling my goals this year. So again, I want to hear your guys' goals. Let's talk about them. So hit me up on any of the social media, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a good day.